So, a few weeks ago, I came on here and talked to you guys about how the Trump administration was given the green light by the United States Supreme Court to be able to deport any migrant to a third party country, meaning that anyone can be deported from the US to any other country around the world, even if it is not their home country. We have already started seeing effects of this. You guys had probably already seen, you guys know of the story of migrants being sent to the El Salvador prison camp, people who are not even from El Salvador. I think that's kind of one of the things that prompted all of these lawsuits and everything. But then the Supreme Court pretty much ruled that, nope, yeah, you can send them wherever you want to go. So now we are in this predicament where we have people who are not from these other countries being sent back to these other countries. Case in point, South Sudan just released a press release the other day, yesterday, I believe, that they had received migrants from the United States or deportees from the United States a few days ago. And there was an article written by the AP that I'm going to read a little bit. I just screenshotted the article just because it's very, very short. So, South Sudanese authorities confirmed on Tuesday that 8 men deported from the United States were now in the custody of the government of the African country. Kual, a spokesperson for the foreign ministry, told reporters that the 8 arrived at Juba International Airport on Saturday following, quote, standard deportation procedures undertaken, end quote, by the U.S. government. The men are under the care of relevant authorities who are screening them and ensuring their safety and well-being, she said, without specifying where they are being held. U.S. authorities said on Friday that the 8 men deported in May and held for weeks at an American military base in Djibouti arrived in South Sudan after the Supreme Court cleared the way for their transfer. The men from Cuba, Laos, Mexico, Myanmar, Vietnam, and South Sudan are part of a case that has gone to the Supreme Court, which had permitted their removal from the U.S. administration officials. Said that the men had been convicted of violent crimes in the U.S. It goes on to say, South Sudan is not a dumping ground for criminals, said Edmund Yakani, a prominent civic leader in the country. South Sudan's government has struggled since gaining independence from Sudan in 2011 to deliver many of the basic services. Years of conflict have left the country heavily reliant on aid that has been hit hard by sweeping cuts in U.S. foreign assistance, so like USAID. Economic hardship has deepened in recent months because of declining oil revenues, with crude exports to Port Sudan affected by civil war in the neighboring country. So, as here, written in the article, these men are not, I have their photo right here. Only 1 out of these 8 are from South Sudan. These are the men that were deported to South Sudan. Trump has even floated the idea of deporting U.S. citizens, right? This clip right here.
You mentioned that you're open to deporting individuals that aren't foreign aliens but are criminals to El Salvador. Does that include potentially U.S. citizens, fully naturalized Americans?
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, and if they rape 87-year-old women in Coney Island, Brooklyn, yeah, that includes them. What do you think? There's a special category of person? They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too, and I'm all for it. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here, too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together.
Which is not even really happening. So all of these things of these violent people, these violent criminals committing acts of violence and terrorizing U.S. citizens on U.S. soil, saying that these are justifications for the removal when there's not actually concrete evidence of all of that. I'm not 100% sure what these people's cases are specifically. However, that does not negate the fact that they're being sent to a country that they've never been to. They don't know the language. They don't know anything there except this one guy. I've been to South Sudan twice. English is not a common language there. I don't know if these people are fluent in English or not. However, English is not a common language in South Sudan. Most people speak Arabic or the different tribal languages. I speak Arabic, so I was fine being able to get around and communicate. I was fine in South Sudan on my own because I could communicate. If you are not from there, I don't know what the next steps for these people are, if the South Sudanese government is going to try to help them get back to their home countries where they're originally from, or what the case is going to be surrounding that. However, I don't see it being realistic of these people living in South Sudan. I also want to mention that there's nothing for them to do in South Sudan. There's no jobs. The economy is horrible. There's literally no economic stability there right now. So it's not realistic, not only just because they can't communicate and they've never been there before, but it's also unrealistic because there are no economic opportunities. How are these people going to work? What are they going to do? How are they going to feed themselves? How are they going to keep a roof over their heads? There's not a job that you can just go out and get in South Sudan. It is shocking that the South Sudanese government had accepted them, but I honestly think that's just because the South Sudanese government is kind of in hot water with the United States right now, with them, stripping visa applications and barring South Sudanese passport holders from entering the U.S. and making other people from South Sudan, other South Sudanese passport holders, fearful that they're going to lose their status and be deported as well. As you guys had seen, Marco Rubio announced that he was canceling all visas for South Sudanese passport holders because they had refused to accept deportees that were not even from there originally a few months ago. These individuals were from, there was one individual, I believe, he had falsified documents, falsified South Sudanese documents, but he was from Congo. So the government were like, we're not going to accept this person because they're not a citizen of ours, but we'll take the other ones. However, Marco Rubio wasn't happy with that. So he's like, I'm just going to cancel all the visas. So now we have the situation where the Supreme Court has paved the way and greenlit anyone being deported anywhere from the US to any country. That's where we are now. I don't know. This is kind of a chilling story, especially when you see these ICE raids, people getting swept up, because being deported to another country is not being deported is not an easy process, right? It takes time because you have to coordinate with the government that the deportees are originally from, and that government has to accept them back and facilitate all of those logistical things. So if that country decides that they're not going to accept them, then now they can just send anyone anywhere else just to get them out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I don't know where we go from here. This is absolutely wild. I keep saying that about everything, that everything is absolutely wild. However, this is absolutely crazy. You have these people who are not from that country originally being deported back there. So it pegs the question, what happened with, the arrangements to send them back to their native countries? Did that fall through or not? Because just picking them up and sending them off to South Sudan, how is that going to fix anything?